20 years had softened the mountains, but not the questions. On a cold, rain-scorched morning in 2010, a park ranger found 2 frost-creased jackets and a single knitted scarf wedged behind a granite outcrop on the Alpine Trail. The tags inside stamped 1990. The garments offered no bodies, only silence. Like a voice in the snow, they kept asking, "Where are you?" For the people of Estes Park, the mystery of James Holloway and Laura Bennett had never fully disappeared. Their smiling faces once appeared on missing posters that fluttered across gas stations and post office bulletin boards in the summer of 1990. They were young, in love, and planning a future together, until one July evening when the mountains swallowed them whole. Some said they lost the trail during a sudden storm. Others believed a fall took them down an unsearchable ravine. But for their families, and for the old detective who once carried their case file, the truth had remained stubbornly out of reach. Until now. Detective Daniel Marlowe had retired years earlier, but when he saw the news about the discovery of the jackets, something inside him stirred. He remembered the case well, the desperate searches, the sleepless nights, the questions that never found answers. He remembered Laura's mother sitting across from him, clutching a scarf identical to the one just found, begging him not to give up. Marlowe wasn't a young man anymore. His hair had thinned, his knees ached when the weather turned cold. But some ghosts refuse to stay buried, and when they rise, you either turn away or face them head-on. Marlowe chose the latter. He drove back to Estes Park, the small town buzzing with a new wave of curiosity. At the visitor center, tourists snapped photos of the Rocky Mountain peaks, unaware that those same peaks had been the last sight James and Laura ever saw. Emily Carter, a local journalist who had been digging into cold cases, approached him as he sipped stale coffee at a diner. "You're Marlowe, right? The detective who worked the Holloway Bennett case." "That was a long time ago," he muttered. "Not long enough for the families," Emily said softly. She placed a folder on the table. Inside were copies of old Polaroids recently handed over by a former tourist. The photos showed James and Laura near Bear Lake, arms wrapped around each other. Laura's scarf draped over her shoulder, but in one frame, a shadow lingered at the edge, a tall man in a ranger's jacket, face blurred but undeniably present. "Who's that?" Emily asked. Marlowe's cigarette smoldered as he leaned closer. He didn't recognize the man immediately, but something about his posture felt familiar. They dug through old staff directories and found him, Harold Whitaker, a seasonal ranger hired in 1990. His record was thin, his departure abrupt. He had resigned only a month after James and Laura vanished. His name had never appeared in any reports. Why didn't anyone question him? Emily demanded. Because back then, Marlowe said, no one wanted the park's reputation stained by scandal. Easier to blame the mountain than a man wearing its uniform. The discovery gnawed at them both. The deeper they dug, the more Harold appeared like a ghost hiding in plain sight. A forgotten ranger who had walked trails with tourists and vanished from records as quickly as James. And Laura had, from the earth, an old witness statement. Surfaced a hiker in 1990 claimed to hear voices arguing near Mills Lake, 2 men and a woman. No one was ever identified. The report had been filed away, overlooked when the storm and terrain became the easy culprits. Marlowe knew what it meant. If Harold was there, the story wasn't one of simple misfortune. It was something darker. Emily tracked Harold's last known address, a a sagging cabin near Estes Park, half swallowed by the woods. They approached cautiously. Inside, the air smelled of rot and dust, but the shelves weren't bare. They were lined with maps of the park, trails marked in red, and on the wall, pinned like a shrine, was a creased photo of James and Laura. Why would he keep this? Emily whispered. Because he couldn't let go, Marlowe muttered. A floorboard creaked behind them. They turned. A man stood in the doorway, older now, hair grey, eyes dark as coal. Harold Whitaker. You've been digging, he rasped. We want the truth, Marlowe said. Steady but low. Harold's lips twisted. The truth doesn't bring them back. Maybe not, Marlowe answered. But it gives the living a chance to breathe again. The old ranger stepped inside. His hands trembled, but his words cut like stone. They trusted me. They thought I knew the trails better than anyone. And I did. But that night, the storm came. James refused to turn back. Laura begged him to. He grabbed her arm. His voice cracked. You killed them, Emily whispered. Harold's eyes shone with tears. No, the mountain did. But I didn't stop it. I let the storm take them because it was easier than facing the fight. The confession hung in the cabin like smoke. Later, Harold revealed the location, the ravine below Chasm Lake. He said he had carried their memory like a weight, visiting the area in secret, watching the mountain bury the evidence deeper each winter. He had resigned and disappeared, unable to face the world. 2 weeks later, a recovery team scoured the ravine. Beneath layers of rock and snowmelt, they uncovered fragments of bone, a rusted belt buckle, and a wedding band engraved J and L, 1989. The discovery broke headlines across the nation. For the families, it was closure, painful but real. For the town, it was a reminder that even the most beautiful places hold shadows. Harold Whitaker was charged not with murder, but with obstruction and failure to report. His punishment was less about prison bars and more about the ghosts that would never leave him on a quiet evening. Marlowe returned to Bear Lake, where James and Laura had smiled for that Polaroid. The water rippled with golden light, carrying the weight of 2 decades of silence. He lit a cigarette, watching the smoke curl into the air. Some stories don't end with villains or heroes, he murmured. Just people, and the choices they couldn't take back. The words drifted across the water, carried into the heart of the Rockies. Because mountains never truly forget. They keep every secret, every echo, every vanished soul, until the day someone dares to listen.